Good evening, Ms. Sullivan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome, everybody, to the regular Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. Is there a motion to open the meeting? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? Meeting is officially open. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting. These are the most people we've had at a meeting in person since, I don't know, about a year. So welcome, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. Hopefully, with the trends, the way it's going, we'll continue to have more people attend our meetings and we'll have more in-person meetings. So it's a good start. And I know on a phone conference with the county exec on yesterday, he was citing the numbers and how the numbers have gone down. So we have to still remain vigilant, but we are in a good place. So let's get started. Today we have a few appointments to start with. We're going to appoint someone as the assistant to the village administrator. Is she? We're going to promote her? Okay, great.
Margaret, can you hear us? Margaret, can you hear us? Margaret, can you hear us?
I am here. It just kicked me out when I went in to become a panelist.
Welcome, Margaret. This is Mayor Rosillo. I want to welcome you.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay, so let's make this official. So we're going to consider a resolution appointing Margaret Parr as assistant to the village administrator. We have a proposed resolution, and before we move forward with it, Melissa, do you want to tell us why you chose Margaret Parr?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I met with Ms. Parr, and she struck me right away as that she will be a good fit here in the village. I think that we'll be able to work well together. She has a lot of experience currently in Bronxville, and she'll be a good addition to the team.
Okay, great. So is there a motion to appoint Margaret P. Parr as assistant to the village administrator? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Casal, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Let me just read the part of the resolution that is relevant and should be out for the public. Resolve that Margaret P. Parr be appointed to the position of assistant to the village administrator effective April 18th, 2022 for an annual salary in the amount of $87,317.25, and be it further resolved upon this permanent appointment as assistant to the village administrator, Margaret Parr shall be subject to a mandatory probationary period of up to 52 weeks pursuant to civil service rules. Margaret, is there anything you want to say at this point in time?
I just really am grateful for this opportunity, and I look forward to meeting all of you in person, working with Melissa, and serving the citizens of Dobbs Ferry.
Welcome, and we look forward to seeing you on April 18th.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next item is to consider a resolution accepting the resignation of Jill Hartnett as a regular member of the Parks and Recreation Committee and appointing Kevin Hartnett as regular member of the Parks and Recreation Commission to fulfill the unexpired term of Jill Hartnett as recommended by the nominating committee. I know we received the recommendation from a nominating committee, and I know that Kevin did go through the nominating process. Do you want to come up, Joe, and say anything at all about this? Okay. Okay. So we just want to just note that, and Nicole, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Jill is no longer eligible because she has moved out of Dobbs Ferry and she has resigned. And Kevin applied, went through the nominating committee and was recommended by the nominating committee. Is that correct?
That's all correct, Mayor. I almost said your honor.
You can still say it.
I'm used to being in court now.
So is there and I'll read it. So therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry hereby accepts the resignation of Jill Hartnett as a regular member of the Parks and Recreation Commission and appoints Kevin Hartnett as a regular member of the Parks and Recreation Commission to fulfill the unexpired term of Jill Hartnett as recommended by the nominating committee. Is there a motion? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Sorry to see Jill go. I don't know how long she was on, for a while, right?
She's been on the whole time that I've been on. So yeah, she was a good contributing member, but she moved to Irvington PO at Dobbs Ferry School. So she'll be around, but not for Dobbs Ferry Rec.
Okay. So we're, as you can see by the agenda, just filling some of the positions that have not been filled for the Parks and Recreation Commission. So the remaining people are currently on the board and we're going to reappoint them. So the first one would be consider a resolution reappointing Mark Legerio as regular member of the Parks and Recreation Commission for a term of 5 years. That would be retroactive to December 6th, 2021. Is there a motion? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Next item is to consider a resolution reappointing Steve Gifford as a regular member of the Parks and Recreation Commission for a term of 5 years. That also will be effective retroactively to December 6th, 2021. Is there a motion? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. And last but certainly not least is consider a resolution reappointing Catherine Kay as regular member of the Parks and Recreation Commission for a term of 5 years, effective retroactively to December 6th, 2021. Is there a motion? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for volunteering and for all the service that you provided to us over the last 5 or 10 years. So thank you for that. Next on our agenda is a presentation by our auditors regarding the financial situation and the compliance with our financial statements with government auditing standards. Is this?
They're virtual.
Virtual, okay.
Brendan, can you hear us? Brendan, can you hear us?
Yep. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
All right. Fantastic. I can assure you I am not by a sunny lake right now. I am in the frigid northern tundra. All right, folks, I'll be quick here. Just going to present the results of our audit of the May 31st, 2021 financial statements of the Village of Dobbs Ferry. We are presenting a little later than usual. There was no issues encountered with the audit, though, just a timing matter, trying to get everything buttoned up. We issued unmodified opinions on each of the major funds in the government-wide reports. An unmodified opinion is the highest level of assurance that we can give you, the board, that the financial statements are free from material error. I can tell you that we received the full cooperation of everyone we encountered during the audit. We like working with Jeff. Jeff's a former public accounting professional, so he does know what we're looking for, and he does a good job preparing for the audit. It makes it a relatively smooth process, which helps us, and in return actually helps save taxpayer money, because sometimes when you don't have a person like Jeff, there's all kinds of extra assistance that you have to provide to get these financial statements completed. There was a couple of changes to the financial statements for this period that we're reporting on. Probably the most significant that you're all aware of is that our sewer district went live for the reporting period, May 31st, 2021. So if you were to compare the financial statements that were provided to you in advance, you would notice that there's a new enterprise fund reported in the financial statements, and it displays the activities, the revenues and receipts and assets of your new sewer district that went live. We had one accounting pronouncement that we adopted, GASB 84, and really this just reclassified some activity that we previously reported in the trust and agency fund. It's now reported in a custodial fund, and other remnants of that trust and agency fund are now reported in the general fund. So we really just shifted some things around to comply with US GAAP. There were no internal control issues that we identified as a result of our audit. Any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses would be reported to you as part of our GAS report, our government auditing standards report, and there are none, nor did we identify any material noncompliance with laws or regulations that would impact the financial statements. So effectively, you have clean opinions all across the board. I'll take you through some required communications, and then I'll leave it open for any questions or comments that you folks may have. We did discuss the change in accounting policy, that being the adoption of GASB statement number 84. That was properly implemented for the period ending May 31st, 2021. We didn't have any audit adjustments. That's pretty rare. Usually when we conduct an audit, we at least find something, and I can assure you it was not for lack of effort. Jeff can attest to all the agony we put him through during the audit process. So to get through an entire financial statement audit with no adjusting entries, that means that the books and records you supplied to me are the same that are being reported upon in the final statement. So that's that's as close as you're going to get to a compliment from me. No uncorrected misstatements. We had no disagreements with management. There were no significant difficulties. Actually, the only significant difficulty we encountered was when we were on site. We got smashed by Hurricane Henry, and we got stuck at the Half Moon restaurant. That's another story we'll tell you at a different time. It's a great one. We made it alive, though. So no significant issues discussed with management, no difficulties other than a hurricane, and all the significant written communications between us and management have been provided to you as part of the audit. So overall, it was a successful financial statement audit. And we really appreciate the cooperation of Jeff and his team. We know there was some transition there at the end at the assistant treasurer level, and he was able to get through that, and he's on the other side now. And we're pleased with the results. And if there's any questions or comments that you folks have as a result of the work, you're welcome to ask them now. And as always, we're here year round. If you have any issues that you need to discuss, we're happy to do so. So just because we're meeting right now doesn't mean you can't seek me out at any other point in time during the year should you have a concern.
Thank you. We appreciate your coming in to talk to us and tell us how great a job Jeff did. So that's thank you very much for that. Does any of the trustees have any questions at this time?
I don't have a question, Vinny, but I just would like to add to your compliment to Jeff, to once again having done a terrific job marshaling the village's budget and financial statements and presenting them in the best possible way, as accurately as possible. So great job, Jeff.
I could tell you all horror stories about other municipalities, but we'll save those stories for another day. But so everything seems to be going well, at least from our perspective. Obviously, you know, a financial audit is just designed to detect material errors or material issues. We do incorporate elements of unpredictability because we know small problems can always grow into a big problem. So we do try and incorporate some other steps as part of our audit, and we're always open to any suggestions that you folks might have as we're conducting our procedures.
So Brendan, when you go through the records and you look, I mean, part of your analysis is to look at the amount of debt that the village has. Is that correct? And whether it's in line with what other communities have or governmental standards?
Well, we would certainly look at your debt issuances to make sure they were compliant with, that they incorporated the financial advisors and bond counsels, and that you certainly didn't exceed your debt limit. We don't formally compare it to other municipalities, although your many attributes could be the same. There could be many things that are different. So it would be kind of hard, but we could certainly benchmark some data on, the benchmark some data for you based on the size of your village and your activities, and present that to you. That would be something we could easily do.
No, I was just asking, when you look at the amount of debt compared to whatever government, standards or accounting standards are, ours seems, if not in line, a little bit better than in line, I think, right?
I would think you're in line, or exactly as you said. There's nothing that caught my eye as being abnormal for a municipality like Dobbs Ferry.
And Jeff, you could probably comment on the village's bond ratings, which have been quite strong.
Correct. Yeah, they're the big A, little A2, which is a very good bond rating. From conversation with Moody's, it would take a lot to, improve that. So, we're in really good fiscal shape.
It's really almost impossible for a smaller municipality to get to AAA. AAA is generally reserved for large municipalities. The state of New York, actually, I don't know what their rating is. I know they have been AAA in the past, but there could be elements completely out of your control that would preclude you from getting to a AAA rating. So as you said, a AA positive is very, very strong.
Yeah, that was my next question. What would it take for Jeff to get us to AAA? But I don't know.
Honestly,
the village would have to win the lottery.
They're like we're vying for Michelin stars.
And we did talk with Moody's last time. They updated the rating, and like Brendan said, it got to do with the size of the municipality.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Brendan. Maybe next time we'll see you live.
Absolutely. And next time we're down there, we'll stop in and try and catch some of you folks. I know you got a new village administrator. We're looking forward to working with Melissa, and we wish her and her team the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, have a great meeting.
Thanks. Okay, the next item is as a courtesy of the floor. I know that we have people here who want to speak, so come on up. When you come up, just please identify yourself and your address.
Ron Vincent, 8 Pietro Place.
Nice to see you.
The bathtub of Dobbs Ferry.
Don't say that.
Well, as some of you might not know, Pietro Place has been flooding for the last 40 years, a lot in the last 2 years. We had a flood on July 8th, I believe it was. And then with Hurricane Ida, we had a massive flood, 5.5 feet of water in our basement, and the other part of the basement, 4 feet of water. We lost a grand piano, Steinway, as well as our furnace and a washing machine and a dryer, and years and years of music. That we're both musicians. And I know that, and as you know, hurricane season is right around the corner. June 1st, here we go again. And then we also have, once the weather gets warm, we have those micro bursts that it drops 3 to 4 inches on us in 15 minutes. Pietro Place can't take that. We're gonna flood again. I'm really happy you guys put in the storm drains, and that'll probably take a couple of 100 gallons out of my basement that I won't get this time. I don't think it's gonna be enough, but so I know there's a resolution coming up tonight, and that's why we're here. There's 4 of us, and we have our finger on this. We need to get this problem fixed. There's no way around it. I can't afford to lose another $70,000.
You understand? That's
And
really,
and never mind the disruption of life as it goes, and loss of income because I can't teach out of my house and so forth and so on. So we have our fingers crossed that something will happen relatively soon. And on another thing, Melissa, thank you. You've been so very helpful, and you've answered all my questions, and you've called me, which I was very happy that you did with information. So thank you for that. And I also want to thank you guys, because this is the first administration that's taken this seriously. It's been going on for 40 years. And the mayor came to my house in 2013, looked at my basement after a big flood. And I said, what are you going to do about it? And he said, it's your water. I'm not going to do anything about it. That was the answer. So thank you for what you have done. And we have our fingers crossed that we will not have to endure another flood.
You're welcome. I came to your house in August. When I looked at how all you guys have lived, it was just tore me apart. And we promised, I know some other trustees as well, went to your houses and we saw what happened to you and the destruction. And I know nothing's been happening for 40 years. And you know that it's an expensive and big project, but we're going to move forward with it. We're going to take a first step tonight. So we'll see I don't know how long it's going to be, and we have to wait for the studies, but we are going to take an important step tonight.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, my name is Ann Schneider, 100 Belden Avenue, and I live on Belden at the corner of Pietro Place. And I was there the night that the flood came, and looking out my upstairs bedroom window, it was like Niagara Falls. There was so much water and just cascading. It was the worst I've ever seen, and I've lived here a long time. So I would think that this is so serious, you just can't like put it and have it fixed in September or something. This needs immediate action. So whatever you could do to make sure that this gets done in a quick and timely manner. And also the last time they said that the fire department could not pump out the houses that had been afflicted because they said it was a state law. Now, I don't know whether if it comes again, whether that would have helped these people. I had no problems. Belden Avenue was perfect for me, but I saw how they suffered. I had them, 7 people had to come to my home to sleep. And it just was the worst thing that ever happened in Dobbs Ferry here for us. So please pay attention and let's not have this sideline, going stretching into the future. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Is anybody online?
Nobody has their hand
Go ahead.
raised.
Come on.
Hi, I'm Joe Lucchese. I live at 93 Beacon Hill Drive. Hi, Nicole, Mayor, trustees. It was nice meeting you, Ms. Ferraro, at the last meeting we had. I do want to say congratulations to my fellow board members. I'm the chairperson of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Those people spent a lot of time. And one of the things I want to talk about tonight was there's an item on the agenda tonight, I think for a flea market that's coming up. It was approved in the fall. So our concern is that as the Recreation Commission, that wasn't brought to our attention prior to going to the trustees. We respect the fact that the trustees have the ultimate decision, but when anything happens on Parks and Recreation in general, we'd like it to go to our committee first, our commission first, have us review it and then pass that information on to the board. That was a concern we had when we found out it was going to be approved tonight. So that's one. Number two, the commission has questions regarding the payment of $2,500 for the use of what we consider prime Hudson River real estate. I assume the thought process is that this is going to benefit the village. But it's unusual, isn't it, that we're paying somebody to actually be on the parkland? Is this a first? I'm not sure. It's a question that we would have had we been, asked about that. Those are questions that came up that we would have actually, brought to the attention of the person that brought the flea market. And then if we liked or we didn't like that, we would have passed that information on to you guys.
Okay, we'll talk about that when the issue comes up on the agenda. We do raise some good questions, and we can talk about the process.
Yeah, and you guys may have all the answers already, but
I doubt it.
we
but
just
can talk about it.
but we do like to be part of the process. That's
Yes,
all.
I totally get it.
Okay.
And we can move forward. We could
Yeah.
make sure that we have a process better in place so that we could address these issues instead of on an ad hoc basis like what's happening.
If there's ever an issue that comes up that's time sensitive, it has to go to you before we have a meeting. We understand that. But in general, if you could just pass it through the Parks and Recreation Commission first, let us, look it over, give our opinions, ask our questions before that comes back to you.
Right, and we can talk about the process and what the process should be going forward. We can
Actually,
talk about-
Mayor, yeah, I'm trying to implement the use of permitting, those permits would go to the boards before they come to the Board of Trustees. So that should alleviate that concern, that any project, even if it's a municipal project, that a permit would be filed with the Parks and Rec Department, and then it would go to the board. So, and we discussed that during the meeting. That's the plan going forward. It hasn't been completely implemented yet, but that's what we're working on.
And that would be great. That's all we're asking. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think a little history about this. When it last came up, we wanted, there was a small window in which to get them here. And this is just for your benefit. It was organized or at least researched initially by a former trustee. And there was a very small window and she brought that to us. We thought it'd be a fun thing to do. We did negotiate some, amount down, but we'll talk about that some more. But just so you, that's why it came up. And now it's just sort of back because I suppose they came back to us and said, ready for it. So.
Those are good
But
points.
it was just, because I agree with Joe and I've been pushing this since I joined the rec commission as the liaison, that everything involving the parks has to go to the commission, regardless if we've done it before, like the graduation for the high school or the Dobbs Ferry School Foundation. Like it can't just come to us. It has to go through there first. This was originally something that we had been talking about doing instead of the, not the flea market, the farmer's market, because the vendors weren't doing that. So trying to bring something different during COVID that the community, and so originally it was talked about doing it at 99 Cedar, and then they kind of brought this, and so it kind of, I think, backwards because there was such a short time frame. But I didn't realize it was on the agenda until yesterday because I've been on trial for a couple of weeks. But I'm sure with Melissa and me pushing that issue that everything will go to the commission, because it is important to have your input, especially because you guys know what else is going on at the park at different times and what the burden is going to be on the village staff for those events. So going forward, it shouldn't be an issue anymore, but thanks for raising it tonight.
Yeah, and I think as Trustee Patino said, it was brought to us with very short notice. We felt that the window was closing very quickly and we wanted to jump on it, and we did negotiate regarding the fees, but we can talk more about that when it comes up.
I was going to say, I can weigh in on the fees, but I'll wait until the resolution is before you.
Okay.
Because I certainly researched it then and reiterate the research now, so.
Okay. Anybody online that wants to raise their hand?
No one has their hand raised right now.
Okay. Go ahead, if you want to come up.
Nancy Kennedy, 8 Pietro Place. So thank you so much. I just want to reiterate what Ron said. I really appreciate very much everything that you've done so far to help us resolve our problem, but we understand that there are wider ranging issues. I know I've been on the phone with Melissa as well. Nice to meet you. And I'm hoping that maybe some of these questions will be answered when you put forth the proposal for tonight, but just that when there's a plan being, commissioned or whatever, that perhaps those people can be asked, how long, can we get an idea about how long that's going to take, instead of just, please get to it and let us know when you're done. But are you going to give them a timeline that is relatively short, what we hope will be relative? And we know these things take time, and it's not going to be just, we'll get it to you by next week type of thing. But that's what I would ask tonight, if you have any more information about what the timeline is going to be and what you are expecting from that proposal, what you are looking for, if we could find out from you what that shape that's going to take.
Okay.
We appreciate it very much. And thank you again. And also to all the members online. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Let's see what we can do. Okay, let's move on to action items. Discussion number 1 is 417 Broadway or Sacred Heart Church.
Okay. Yeah. And then you can share your screen. Share.
Success.
Can you
Good
tell us
evening,
who
Board,
you are?
Mayor. My name is Anthony Zano. I'm the landscape architect that has been involved with this essentially resurfacing and a little expansion, some landscaping and lighting improvements to the church at 417 Broadway. So we've been to you, we went to planning board. I received comments from your consultants, which I can go through if you'd like. I shared them with them. I can go real quick. Would you like that? And then
Yeah, well, our consultant said that certain issues should be addressed, and
Right.
tell us how you address it.
So they were from Nelson Pope Forest. So I guess the planner had comments about the parking and this, we revised the site plan to give dimensions to the parking spaces, the travel lanes and the drop curbs. They're questioning the lighting. There was a photometrics provided in the original applications. They were being concerned with the compliance with the zoning. They are shoebox luminaires, which essentially downlight down. So they're consistent with the dark skies requirement. The stormwater management plan.
Can I ask you a question about this?
Sure.
What's the plan when the parking lot's not in use? And let me just give you a little context. Several years ago, the gas station across the street wanted to put in a canopy. And I was completely against that because I didn't want that corner to be dominated by lighting. I wanted it to be dominated by the church, which is the best, one of the nicest buildings in the village. So what are you going to do with the parking lighting? Like what I would hate to see happen is that lighting to overtake the view when I walk down the street, when I drive at night. I want to see the church. I want to see the window, not a bunch of parking lot lights.
Right. I need to confirm this with the church, but I would recommend that with some of the church, that the lighting be on when there's a mass or for a period of time, that it's not on all night. It doesn't need to be. So it's going to be controlled. They have to pay for the electricity. It's not for free. So we can put that condition that, right.
Like just to sense of light when you're walking by, driving by,
Okay.
you have light, because right now it's dark, but they're not gonna be there all
Right.
lit up.
Thank you. And
can make
forgive
that
me the
condition.
interruption.
So we can make it a condition that it will be controlled and it won't be on for longer duration, typically done when the church is when there's a mass. Or, because there is lighting around the building. This was for people when they're parking and going into the church. So when there's a mass is for, when in the evening, they would have to be on, but we can control that. They don't need to be on when no one's there.
So on a Tuesday at 11 o'clock at night, there's not going to be any lights on.
No.
Unless it's Christmas Eve.
The last mass is 6 o'clock. Maybe for,
There are no masses at night, if I can just interrupt, just if there is an activity.
Why don't you tell us who you are so we have that for the record?
Hi, Mary Fischetto, business manager for Sacred Heart Church, Sacred Heart Lady of Pompeii. And we are looking just for sensor lighting so we can see where we're going at night.
okay.
Or the questions.
The landscaping, we had used the majority of native plants. Your planner, confirmed that. The stormwater management plan, once we receive approval from this town board, we have to do deep test pits, 7 feet deep to confirm no rock, no standing water. So once this board approves it, we still have to get a building permit. We have to comply with all the rules and regulations. It'll be a detailed design with the drainage system that has to be approved by the village engineer. So right now we have a schematic design, but we have to confirm actually with test pits, and they're 7 feet deep. So we're not going to go rip up the parking lot just yet. Once we get approval, that'll be the next step in order to get the building permit. Again, we added some, there was question about erosion control. I did an erosion control plan that shows essentially there's such silt fence. There is no drainage, no catch basins on this parking lot. So we're being required to essentially capture all the water that's been there for 100 years. So, but this is what we need to do so we don't have flooding on somebody else's property. So that will be provided. The engineer also had similar comments about dimensioning of the parking spaces. The plans have been updated for dimension of the length of the spaces, the width, the travel lanes and drop curb. We added sediment. They were very similar. He also commented on sediment erosion control, which we added the drawings. We provided calculations for the stormwater drainage to the engineer, but they need to be confirmed with the soil conditions once we do the test pits. Again, once we do the test pits, he asked a question about, we have to do those in compliance with the village requirements. He asked that our catch basin have an 18-inch sump so we can remove sediment. We made that change and added that note. We added some notes to the plan about erosion control, everything, keep the roads free and clear, have them swept daily. So typical notes that we're going to put on there. Essentially, one of the things that we talked about, it's an existing asphalt parking lot. We're proposing to do cobblestone curb, adding we're expanding the parking lot where essentially they're parking now. So our goal is to do the curbing first, do the drainage and leave the existing pavement so we're not disturbing it and dragging, cars will be driving in and out. The last thing, once we have all the curbs done, the lighting's in, we remove the pavement and resurface and leave. So that the pavement itself is acting as a construction entrance, so we don't have to be bringing debris onto the road. That was something that the engineer thought it would be a good idea. So that's where we are. I can just go through.
You don't have to go through it. So we're just putting it over for a public hearing. But before we put it over for a public hearing, do we have our engineer or planner on? Could she just, or he?
Well, the planners, there's a memo.
Right. I
With
have the
her
memo.
comments, and there's also the engineer's memorandum
Right.
on here as well. And it's really just to, at this point, to put it on for public hearing. And then the comments and the presentation could be done within the scope of the public hearing, and you can condition approval or not condition approval as you see necessary. So the two issues that your planner have pointed out have to do with the parking, which Mr. Zano has explained, and the lighting, which Mr. Zano has also explained. And now he understands that Trustee Patino is concerned about timing and sensors, and so
Right.
that.
I just wanted to make sure. And have you said you sent those those responses into the planner?
Yes, but I was late. I want to be honest.
Okay.
I think I sent them on like Saturday morning, so I
Okay, so that was my
apologize.
question, if the planner or the engineer.
They'll
have
need to
received
have
it.
them in advance of the public
Right,
hearing.
that's what I was
So
getting.
they-
at.
I did get them to the village.
Now
And I
that-
can send them to.
No, they'll come to us.
Okay,
From the consultant.
they're at the village.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So is there a motion to schedule a public hearing for site plan approval of the application for 417 Broadway, Sacred Heart on March 22nd, 2022 at 6:30? Trustee Rosenberg, second trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. So we'll see you on March 22nd, 2022.
Thank you.
Assuming you sent in all the documents and we have it.
Yes, I'll be on time.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion, is it possible to close that door?
Not without risk of injury.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, so now and before us, we have as a discussion item and hopefully a resolution to consider a resolution authorizing the expenditure for engineering services and studies. We have a memorandum from Jennifer dated March 3rd, 2022, laying out the issues. We also have a proposed resolution. Melissa, can you start us off on this?
Certainly. Yes, there are several drainage projects that we've asked our consulting engineering firm, Dolph Rothfield Engineering Division, to research and to advise us how best to proceed. So they've given us several reports on various projects, one of which is the Gould Park Pietro Place flooding area, which they're recommending that we proceed with a study at this point. The study will tell us exactly how we should proceed. It will give us recommendations. There may be more than one recommendation, at which time, when the study is completed, then the board can consider how we're going to proceed. The cost of that study is approximately $80,000. Another study that's being proposed is in the vicinity of Virginia Avenue and Ashford Avenue with regards to other draining issues that we have there. These are two separate watersheds, so they are separate studies. We are currently in the process of reaching out to the county to see if we can get some funding from the county for the studies, or at least for the work that's going to take place after the studies are completed. And we're going to present both of those projects to the county to see if we can get that funding, because the cost for the study is $69,500. Once the two studies are done, like I said, we can, the board can decide how to proceed, and then those projects will be underway with bidding and with the actual work being done.
And just to answer their questions, would this study be able to tell, the initial study be able to tell us how much it may cost, or?
It should give us estimates. The engineer will give us estimates as to what different options are. It may have option one, and it would offer these options with this cost. Option two may have different options or different solutions with a different cost, and that would be up to the board to consider as a whole. I apologize, Anthony had a conflict tonight, and I was late in responding to him, so I didn't get him here tonight. So if anybody has any questions that I can't answer based upon the information that I have, I will reach out to Anthony.
When
But
you do that, would you also ask him about the timeline for the study work?
the study is estimated, it's going to be a few months before we get the report back.
And the
And then
report will
once-
make recommendations
Yes,
on
once-
different projects, and then you'll have to approve the projects to effectuate.
Right, once we get the study
plan.
back with the final record, it will have a recommendation as to how they recommend that we proceed.
And we're gonna talk, and like, and to what Mike is saying, the timeline, the cost,
Right.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
I think it's important, though, if you're talking about a few months, that like we kind of stay on top of it, because you remember in July and August, we only have one meeting.
Yes.
So that if they come up, like it's gonna get stuck, and then it further delays it. So we don't have
Right,
our normal
right.
two
Yes,
meetings.
we'll be on top of when we can expect the study, when we can move forward, and we'll try to get it to the board as soon as possible. So we have no delays outside of the time it will take to do the study. The study is going to require drone footage. It's going to require a lot of in-depth overview of a large area of the village. So that's why it's anticipated to take.
But are the two
several
studies
months.
being done separately? Like, it's not like one study, like the Virginia study is not gonna hold up Pietro Place or vice
No,
versa.
but there are aspects of each study that will overlap. So it will actually help save money for the cost of the study, and it will also help save time. Okay, there are two other projects that are on the resolution for tonight that are ready to proceed. They don't require studies because it's clear what the issues are. One is with regards to the Walgrove Esterwood pipe, a culvert that is damaged and needs to be replaced. That has to have, sorry, I have to put my glasses on. The Walgrove Esterwood study requires the replacement of 325 linear feet of new pipe for a culvert with a concrete head wall and a stream restoration. That is an estimated cost of the project of $450,000. That includes the project will, once it's authorized, the project will go out to bid. The engineering studies will be done. Everything will be able to go forward to start working on that project as soon as possible. The same with regards to the Bel Air Drive drainage project. That is requiring the replacement of 500 linear feet and will address drainage structures and restore the roadway because the drainage issues there have caused sinkholes and potholes in the roadway. So the cost of that project is an estimated $250,000.
Let's go back to the first one for a moment.
The Bel Air
Yeah, the Esterwood.
or Esterwood. Okay.
Esterwood Walgrove. Can you tell us why this is an important project? It from what I can read in what's in our packet, one neighbor has a sinkhole in their backyard, which, you know, I'm sorry to hear that, but also spend almost $500,000 to fix that seems like not the best use of funds, but there may be more to it. And if there is, I'd like to know what that is.
I'm going to
Before we
ask
move ahead with
Jen.
this.
I know Jennifer is here. Jennifer has been involved in these projects for quite some time.
Yeah.
So if Jennifer, if you have any other insight, I'm relying on the information that you've given me. So perhaps going directly to the source, if you have it.
I was just gonna say, it's a very large sinkhole in this person's backyard. It started really small, and then after Ida, it completely ripped the backyard open. And they cameraed the line, and there's multiple breaks. So just because there's no sinkholes yet in other people's properties, pipe is broken.
So this is running through 105 is on Esterwood, and it actually runs all the way through to Walgrove. So this is running sort of perpendicular to Esterwood, so between Esterwood and Walgrove, or is it running diagonally? If we look at a map, is it running?
runs in between Esterwood and Walgrove, but parallel with them.
Okay.
And then it goes through woods and other people's property, and then it comes out to a catch basin on Walgrove.
It'd be better if we have the engineer here to talk to us more about it, Mike.
So in other words, there's damage localized, but the pipe, which is part of the stormwater system that moves the water from A to B, it just happens to show now that it's damaged here, and they televised in many parts of the pipe are damaged. If it continues to deteriorate, the water will not make its way to B. It'll stop in the middle at this location.
Is that your lawyer advice or your
No,
your engineering?
In my discussions with Anthony,
It would be nice to see. I'm looking at a map, and I'm looking at 105, which is sort of almost at the end of Esterwood. And I'm imagining it, you know, it's sort of running, you know, there's a number of houses there. The houses here are very close together, right? This is 105. If it's threatening to, you know, create problems for a number of these houses for the structures, then this is an intelligent investment. If it's, you know, if it's something other than that, maybe we should keep thinking about it. This was new to me. It's a lot of money. I'm aside from the one description of a sinkhole.
And I apologize. Like I said, it's my fault that Anthony is not here. I got him too late before it was on the agenda. We wanted to move forward with this. And I do not have enough information other than what I'm getting from DBW to be able to advise you. But I can tell you that the projects that have been provided, let me see if I'll pull up the report and see if I can give you any other information.
You're looking for a report from the engineer?
Correct.
and this is an example of a project that would, the type of project that would result from the studies. So this is sort of what the second step of that study is going to look like. He's going to recommend replacing a pipe or adding, and then it's going to come in at this level of $1. So the study is going to lead to this kind of proposed project down the line to help. Because of course, the Pietro Place people are at the end of the storm, the hydrology ends there, but other things upstream might very well be a project that Anthony will designate. We don't know yet.
Yes, unfortunately, the report that I have is just the ultimate work that would be expected and the cost, the estimated cost, but I don't have any more information regarding the underlying issues.
Oh, when did the village learn that there was a small sinkhole that's now become a larger sinkhole?
In August.
Sorry, Jen, I think you said that and I just slipped my mind. Sorry.
It was before Ida. Ida happened September 1st. I think we got first report of it during the storm that happened in August.
Okay. But at that time, it wasn't on village property.
Well, there's an easement.
If there's drainage underneath the property, then we'll have an easement and it becomes a village requirement to fix.
Okay.
Because the sinkhole, even though the sinkhole is on private property, if it's caused by the underlying piping.
Understood.
So about the, excuse me, about the Bel Air project, because I live downhill from Bel Air and I'm not aware of this. Can you tell me where the damage
In the road?
in the road that results from this is?
Jen, do you have, okay.
The actual address. There's a section of road that we constantly are putting cold patch in, or we're coming out and we're paving it. You know, putting hot pavement in there, but it keeps getting ripped up. So we had an engineer go out and look at it, and I'll tell you exactly where it is. There's something with the drainage in there that needs to be repaired, or else the road is gonna keep getting damaged.
Bel Air's been like that forever, like bumpy and choppy and, you know, everyone, it's a good reason to go very slow, which is good for the neighbors.
It is good for the neighbors. But also, you
speed
know,
bump.
depending upon where it is, I'm wondering if that is also having downstream effects on Oliphant, because Oliphant is also, you know, a bumpy rutted nightmare that requires constant filling as well. So I'm just curious whether A, where exactly this is, because I don't know, and B, whether it is actually confined to Bel Air or if it has downhill effects, because Bel Air, as everybody knows, is on, you know, on top of it.
The obnoxious answer is that high density on steep slopes means problems with drainage.
Thank you for giving the obnoxious answer.
But, and so there's always going to be some, like, that area is very densely built up because of the view. So I think, and I'm just curious, I don't know what the drainage situation is either, but it'd be good to understand where this falls in this, you know, in the system and what other parts are potentially problematic. And so, you know, rather than us say, we're going to fix this section because we just happen to look at this one and there's 10 others, like, is it a major problem that has to be looked at all of those? And we're really talking about $2.5 million or?
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question about the Walgrove Esterwood, since I live around the corner from there. Does that affect the traffic to and from Springhurst and Children's Village and the Master School? Is it something, because there's a lot of traffic on Walgrove. There's a lot of, you know, cars going up and down. So I'm just wondering, is it just totally at the end of Esterwood that's closest to the woods, or does it come through the woods and go down to where the Walgrove hits Springhurst and Children's Village?
Stephen just unmuted himself.
It's 105 Esterwood.
Let's Stephen on.
It comes down CV as an open culvert to a pipe culvert behind the houses. I think at 105 Esterwood, and then probably like 130 something Walgrove.
Right.
There's like
and
4 or 5.
Right. So that's
houses,
a big
so
traffic area for school buses.
it
And,
won't affect traffic because they're not going to be in the road. They're in the people's backyards.
okay. But I'm saying if it continues, that's what I'm saying. Like it's one thing to, I'm just wondering if this is something that's existed for a while and then this is what it is, or is this something that potentially could get even worse and spread even further if it's not addressed? That's my question, I guess.
Well, it's going to spread. It's going to keep going up the line to the houses because the pipe is rotted.
Thank you.
And there's trees that gotta be cut down and everything.
Does the majority of the board feel comfortable moving forward on all these projects now, or do we want to have an engineer give us more information? I mean, certainly we could approve the studies and then wait on the other two projects, or if the board feels comfortable, we could approve all of this. So I just want to get a consensus of people.
I have another question about the studies too. Are they completely, we commission these studies, and I'm especially concerned about Pietro Place. But when we commission these studies, is it completely open-ended where we don't give a timeline, where we don't say we'd like this done by X? I mean, I know things take time, but is the expectation that they don't even give us a date for when it's completed by, and it's completely open-ended? Or is it, can we ask that it be completed in 60 days or, 90 days? Or
We will work with the engineer to have an estimated date of completion, and we will continue to do that. There are some things that may come up that may extend that.
Sure.
But we expect it to be a few months.
Okay. Thank you.
But we would continue to work with the engineer to make sure that it's going forward, that the project is going forward.
But I think as part of, so to answer your question, Mayor, I'd like to split them. I'd like to approve the studies tonight, and I'd just like to have some more backup information from Mr. Oliveri, just to see what the context is for both of these. But I think for the contract, since we're going to go ahead with that, with at least the studies, I would just request that a schedule is included in the contract and then make them stick to it. I mean, to do a drone study, camera study, and it's not, we could do that in 2 months.
It's a large watershed area, so we want to make sure that.
Yeah, or we'll just let's get them to agree to a timeline and then stick to it.
And again, it's the village's consulting engineer. It's not a third party, so we do have some leverage.
Right.
Yeah, and they're good at what they do.
Melissa's good about that.
So Matt, how do you feel about that?
I agree with Michael. I'd like to know more about, particularly about the Bel Air project, but about both of them before we move forward.
Go.
I think that's fine. I mean, it's fine to have more information, but I don't see a scenario where we don't end up doing those projects if they're as they've been described to us.
Larry?
I think Pietro is critical that moves forward as soon as possible. As for the other two, I mean, I guess, whether or not we should be doing something more comprehensive, I'm on the fence. Whether those are chronic, to the extent that Steve, you guys believe, and the engineer believes that the sinkhole is going to actually get substantially worse, then we should deal with it before it becomes a bigger problem. These things don't get better by themselves, unfortunately.
So the lady almost lost her pool at Estorwood. That's how big that one got.
Donna,
So
what do you
maybe we
think?
think about the Bel Air project
Well-
separately.
I was out there during the storm. I saw all these areas, and I also know that when there's water issues and drainage issues, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I would rather not hold off on any of this. I would rather get as much done as possible, as well as obviously, trying to get funding for it. But I know what these people are going through, and I think delaying it is just putting off the inevitable. And the sooner these people can get the properties back, the better. So
I'm sorry to go backwards and ask another question, but is the Bel Air of this group, is the Bel Air project, is that a threat to private property, or is it, just a nuisance in terms of the roadway? If it's where I know of a small sinkhole by North Drive, that doesn't seem terrible. It just gets covered up with metal plate, and then every once in a while they put patch in it. It's not clear that it's getting worse or threatening private property, but the others may be.
Let's hear from Shari. Shari, what do you think?
I agree with Donna. I think, I want to be forward thinking, but I also know, living in this village for as long as I have, that there's been lots of instances where people talk about getting stuff done and it doesn't necessarily get done, even with good intentions. as someone who had 3 pipes burst in her house, I know that water will find a way where water wants to find a way. And I think that it's better to address it now before it becomes an even bigger issue. So, I would want to move ahead with all of them, whether any of us personally feel that it's bad or not bad. If we have DPW telling us that it's getting bad and people living there telling us it's getting bad, then I think it's better to move ahead.
Okay, so before I put this to a formal vote, because then I have to decide if I'm going to split it or not. So I just want to make sure from informal, just informally, how many people think we should move forward with it the way it is? Just raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Ooh. 1, 2, 3. You said?
I said yes.
Oh, so then 4. Okay, then we'll move forward with it. Okay. So then
The mayor skates by without having to decide. It's okay, Your Honor, you're entitled.
I just want to point out that you'll have a site plan public hearing at your next meeting, so your engineer will probably be here, so he might be able to answer some more of your questions at that time as a matter of discussion point. So he's usually attends the planning board with the planner when they do site plan. So it would seem to me that he would be here for your public hearing on your site plan.
could you say that again? We're doing a site plan.
You're doing a site plan public hearing on 417 Broadway Sacred Heart. So routinely you have the planning and the engineering consultants attend when there's a public hearing on a site plan. So
Mr. Oliveri will be here at the next meeting. So
Right.
if we want to add this to the agenda for further discussion for any additional questions.
Okay, but it seemed like we had 4 people who wanted to move
Yeah,
forward.
but let me just, because there's a few things that were said just
Let Mike comment. Yeah,
just a
fine.
couple of minutes ago that I don't think are pertinent to this actual project or these 2 projects. The first is that on neither Bel Air nor Esterwood, is there anything even remotely resembling the risk to property and people's livelihoods that occurred at Pietro Place? So we shouldn't equate the 2. They are very different. We absolutely want to move ahead with the studies. Unfortunately, it's going to take the time it's going to take, but finding and getting some more information about what's actually happening on Esterwood, what's actually happening on Bel Air, I think is prudent before we spend, I don't know, $700,000. I think to just say, well, we can't risk a one above ground pool at 105 Esterwood for $450,000 is not the prudent course for this. And I don't, and patching a few potholes on Bel Air when we have major issues in other parts of the village, training is concerned. I don't see that the arguments that were made pertain to these 2 particular projects.
You know what, let's split it anyway, because I don't want to speak for Trustee Patino or Rosenberg. I don't think they want to vote against the Pietro Place studies. So let's do 2 different resolutions, one for the studies, then one for the actual work to be done. Okay, so.
But can we just, because we haven't heard from Jeff on this, and there was some mention about using specified funds. I mean, were those funds, I can't remember what it was called, the American Relief something.
The American Rescue Plan.
Yeah, is that for the plan, using those funds for Esterwood and Bel Air, or just for the studies or something else?
So the studies are going to be general operating fund expenditures. My understanding is that Melissa is looking at potential grants to help cover that, I believe. And then the actual projects themselves would be ARPA funds.
And we have $1 million in American Rescue Funds.
Yeah.
Well, I have to question whether, is there a time by which those have to be spent? Because if we're spending them on these projects and that leaves us wanting for the Pietro Place project, that would be something we should know.
Yes, there's a time limit on it. 2025, 2026 is the spend out time frame.
Okay, so we've got plenty of time. And we might not want to take all of the 700,000 out of the million that we have, not knowing what it is going to cost to fix the problems at Pietro Place. Is there a source of potential funds identified for where we might find whatever it takes in addition to the remaining 300,000 in ARPA funds to do that work?
If I could make a suggestion, Mr. Mayor, it seems like everybody agrees that Pietro is an absolute priority. Maybe we separate that, we vote on that today, and we ask the engineer for more details on Bel Air and Esterwood, assuming that Steve and Jen agree that Esterwood could wait 2 weeks. And so we have time to get some more information on both those other two projects from the engineer next meeting.
It's also longer than 2 weeks because it's us approving it and then it going out to bid. These are just estimates from the engineer.
Well,
So
it's 2 weeks longer than it would be if we approved it tonight without that information.
That's
Can we just go back? I think Matt asked the question. I don't think we got an answer to that question. I don't even know if Matt remembers the question, but.
I do. Do we have, there's no doubt that Pietro Place is going to be, not a couple of nickels to fix. So have we identified a source of funds that we can go to fund that project if we have already depleted the federal funds by 70%?
Jeff, you can elaborate, but I would think that this would be part of a capital plan, or we would bond for the cost, correct?
That would be my suggestion, yes.
And in the meantime, we're going to be seeking the infrastructure grant funding as well. So we're looking at that in the interim, but we have to identify the funds, the source funds, obviously. There were some projects that we haven't presented to the board because we felt that these projects were more important to move forward.
Right. I just haven't heard I would be happy to, based on what we've heard tonight, Esterwood seems like it is a real and present danger. I just don't have any real sense of what the issue on Bel Air is and whether it is isolated to what would be fixed with this 500 feet of pipe or whether it needs to be looked at in a more systemic way. It just hasn't been answered.
I also like just point out that I saw in the memo that, you talked about not recommending other projects because they're part of our 10-year capital plan. But my understanding about that 10-year capital plan is kind of like, here's all the capital issues we have, and not that we have like specified funding for those or a plan to fund those. So to the extent, like, I'm not saying these shouldn't be prioritized over that, but just the fact that they're on that and this isn't, does not make them more urgent.
Absolutely. And the intention of that is that there is, I think I sent it in one memo, that there are projects that we are trying to coincide. We have to see what the cost of these studies are going to result in. And in recognizing that, we have time for the other two projects that we have to hold off on them. I kind of prioritize them in speaking with the staff as to which ones would be presented to the board now and which ones we can hold off maybe 6 months to address.
All right, so let's split them in two, and then we can go, because I think the easier one is just to authorize the studies. So let me make sure I do this right. Is there a motion authorizing the village administrator to commence drainage studies for the Virginia Avenue / Ashford Avenue project and the Pietro Place / Gould Park project? Trustee Asher, second. Trustee Cassell, all in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. All right. We want to actually, okay, I guess I had to put it forward as far as a vote on the next project, because I was going to suggest that we just put it over, but all right. Is there a motion to authorize the village?
Mayor, if you don't want to take a vote, this can be tabled. This is second aspect of the resolution could be tabled
Right, I
until
know.
the 22nd. so
I
that
would
no
prefer
official-
not to, but I think, I don't want to, I don't know if I'm not sure where the majority of the board is going on this. So I don't know if I should make a formal motion again on this part. Yes, Donna?
I don't mind holding off for 2 weeks, but I don't want to, I mean, just to satisfy, other people's wanting more information. I can understand they're wanting more information. So I'm all right with putting it off for 2 weeks, but I don't want to be tabling this forever.
Right, Shari, how do you feel?
Once again, I agree with Donna. 2 weeks seems reasonable to me unless DPW, is raising a flag and saying something horrible is going to happen. I think 2 weeks is completely reasonable to get more information to make people feel more comfortable with this, but I also don't want I don't want to be in 2 weeks voting to then put it off again for 2 weeks. So.
I agree. And just so it's clear, if there is a disaster on that Bel Air thing, it's going to wind up in my basement. So.
Whereas the other one may end up in Shari's basement.
I was going to say, Esther would have wind up in my basement. I've already had enough in my basement, so I don't need another one.
So, okay, Larry, you okay with the putting over for 2 weeks?
Agree.
And Nicole?
That's fine.
Okay, so I don't have to make any kind of a motion. Or do I have to make,
You've passed a resolution as revised,
right,
so you're good.
I could just leave it the way it is for now?
Yes, you can, and then a new resolution could be
With the assurance that Melissa will put it on
22nd.
with the,
Yeah, so you've passed a resolution as revised.
okay. All right, guys. Well, moving forward, one step at a time. You're welcome. You too. You're always welcome. And when it's fixed, you're gonna have a block party, you're gonna invite us to the block party, right? Okay, let's hope it doesn't rain.
Lori Lee points out it's got to be BYO or we will have just asked for a bribe.
We have gift implications. It'll be BYO, potluck. Okay.
Don't we have up to like $75 or something?
Yes.
How much beer are you gonna drink?
Discussion item number 3 is to consider a resolution to certify and approve the 2020-2021 Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Ambulance Corps Service Award Point listing as submitted by the Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Ambulance Corps. They have submitted a list of people who volunteered enough hours to receive points towards their, pension going forward. So is there a motion to certify and approve the service points awards as submitted by the Dobbs Ferry Ambulance Corps? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? And that passes unanimously.
What does terminated vested mean, and why is there a whole page of?
I believe that means they've already earned enough points to qualify for their pension going forward, so there's.
So they don't bother to register them anymore?
They don't bother to volunteer anymore, more likely.
Okay.
They've met their.
They've vested
minimum,
in
right.
their, yes, in the benefit.
Okay, next item is the discussion regarding the Phoenicia Flea event on June 11, 2022.
We should have the downtown committee chair here.
Is anybody else here?
Christie's here.
Christy who?
Christy now?
Christy now?
It just says Christie. It only can be one.
She's rebranded.
There's only one Christie in all of Dobbs Ferry.
Downtown committee chair.
Caitlin's here too. I'm gonna promote her. Christy and Jess, can you hear us?
There she is.
So Christy, could you,
I'm not the chair of anything. I'm just here.
why'd we promote you then? I don't know.
I don't know, because you wanted it to be more fun in here.
Oh, there you are, Jess. How are you?
There's Jess.
Hi, nice to see you all. Thank you.
So
for having
maybe,
me.
I don't know who can give us the background first on this. I'd like it to come from us first. So maybe Melissa, you can fill us in on it.
I could, I would actually refer to Lori Lee because she had all of the background on it from its inception.
Yes.
I can give you the information that I've gathered from Lori Lee, so maybe we
Sure,
should cut to the source.
I can help you with this. It's a proposal that former trustee Nell brought forward in the fall. This is an organization who actively promotes these local events using local business makers, artisans, etc. So they curate, they promote, and it's in the realm of I'm trying to give you an idea of what it's analogous to. It's analogous to a farmer's market, which you pay for the sponsor to get the vendors. It's also analogous in many ways to the way you have a curated craft event, for example, at the Lyndhurst Mansion twice a year. You're hiring the promoter, and they're going to bring an event here that is completely packaged. They are working locally with the downtown committee to include, as among the vendors, they'll be including local businesses who have made products that they will be vending at the same market. So it is you're paying for this organization to do the curation, the organization, the sponsoring, that they have a system in place where they don't require extra DPW help. They have a system in place that they collect, they provide their own bags, their own cleanup, and they, upon instructions from our DPW, will place it in a particular area. So they're a very successful part of a sort of a national market of these kinds of curators and promoters and organizers of these kinds of events.
Is there anything you want to add to that, Jess?
Yeah, I can share more details on the organization if you'd like, and their kind of performance with events.
Well, can you talk about perhaps, and I think maybe Christy can highlight it, how many people were expected to come, and what we think the value is to the village?
Yeah.
I have one very quick question. Do the vendors have to pay Phoenicia a fee?
Yeah, there's a nominal fee that they pay to Phoenicia to participate, but the idea would be that Phoenicia would work with us to make sure that local Dobbs vendors, and they're focusing on particularly food vendors, making sure that they're highlighting, because we have so many fantastic food businesses here in Dobbs Ferry, that they're getting, the extra look and the extra opportunity to participate. And I think I think we can figure out a way to make it very accessible for the Dobbs local participants. So the idea is that we're supporting the local vendors and giving them a platform that they wouldn't have otherwise, despite the incredible performance of the downtown committee's Instagram account. And then, so they're getting looks from folks who are coming up from the city, who are coming down from the Hudson Valley, because those are the sort of target audiences of this organization. And then simultaneously, vendors who have huge followings, who are part of this Phoenicia Fleet Network, are coming to Dobbs Ferry and bringing the people who love them to Dobbs, who might not have necessarily known about Dobbs Ferry otherwise.
And about the fee question, Donna, the way I think about it is like the fee that they are charging the village is to produce the event and get the vendors there. And then the fee that's small that they charge the vendors is for the materials that they use. Like they use a tent. They have it makes it so that it's a better appearance, and it's not like everybody doesn't have to bring their own tent and set up. They get a table and tent.
I was just hoping maybe that Dobbs vendors could get a break on that as opposed to outside. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But I mean, considering we're really looking at this to help our downtown vendors. I mean, because they've been through so much these past 2 years, that any break that they can get because we're paying for the event, I would just like to ask them for that.
Yeah, and we'll ask again and confirm what that number would be, and if it feels challenging for whatever reason, I think they'll be accommodating. But if there's any issue, we can work on supporting the local vendors to offset that fee in some other way.
Okay.
Yes, Shari.
And this is a reduced fee that Christie negotiated last fall. It's a reduction over their routine fee for this promotion. It's like when we hire the promoter to do the jazz series in the park. It's that same kind of thing.
It also seems to me it's a wonderful opportunity for the Dobbs Ferry businesses and artisans to get exposure well beyond, the people who are in town, and much the same way that when they had the River Towns Market down by the waterfront and 3,000 or 4,000 people showed up. It was not just Dobbs Ferry people in Dobbs Ferry. It was people who were coming to Dobbs Ferry because of the event and then exploring and the village and being exposed to things here. And so I think this is a wonderful opportunity we have so many, not just businesses, but we have a lot of artisans and a lot of people who are trying to get businesses off the ground. And this is a great way for them to have, a physical presence someplace. And the fact that it's curated and put together by a promoter, as Christy said, will make it look good. It won't look like a haphazard kind of, tag sale. It will be like a real quality event.
Well, I think Laura Lee made a good point in that we do pay the farmer's market a fee to do a farmer's market, and we do pay for the jazz concerts down at the Waterfront Park. So that's all to promote people to come to Dobbs Ferry and see how great a village it is. So I think that's in line with that as well. So
And we did not pay.
We're talking about this as though it's for the vendors, but it's for the people of Dobbs Ferry to go enjoy
Yes.
new event at our, one of the best places in the village. So I think for that simple reason, the cost is more than justified. And it's also quite small. I mean, $2,500 for a fun party for Dobbs Ferry residents seems like a no-brainer.
I think that's absolutely right.
So is any other further discussion? Okay.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to say we don't actually pay for the farmer's market.
No, we don't.
Oh, okay. Say, Laura Lee, you misled me.
But we also didn't pay for the team of volunteers that put together the River Towns Public Market. That was extremely difficult to pull off because it's something professionals generally do. So
Nor
I
do we
think
pay for
in lieu of having a group of volunteers who could pull this off again, it would be nice to just have somebody who has done it a million times and can crank it out.
Yeah, and if this were a traditional farmer's market that you have sponsored over the years, you would be paying them to organize this. Your farmer's market has been a single vendor alone, and we're looking to expand that, and it's a topic that's on Melissa's pipeline, but in most other communities I've worked with in my last 30 years, they do pay, and then those organizers get a fee from the vendors that they bring. So it's an unusual circumstance, but in this case, you're getting something that's completely packaged, has been a success, and is part of sort of a national network of these sort of pop-up markets. And like Trustee Asher said, it's an incubator too. So if the local artisan doesn't have a store, or a local maker, cupcake maker doesn't have a storefront, this is an opportunity for them to get exposure.
Okay, let's move forward on it then. So is there a motion to, is there a motion to hereby approve the rescheduling of an event at Waterfront Park previously approved for October 2021 to June 11, 2022, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 5 p.m., and authorize the village administrator to execute an agreement with the Phoenicia Flea to organize, curate, and promote a pop-up market to include an array of independent craft makers, artisans, and other vendors, including local individuals and businesses, for a fee not to exceed $2,500. Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Asher, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Christy, you were dying to raise your hand for that vote, I know, but. Okay, it's passed, so let's hope it goes well. And it doesn't rain. I'm gonna regret that I said that.
And when is it going to be?
June 11th.
Never rains in June on a weekend. Counteract your jinx.
My bad mojo. Thank you, guys. Just maybe you want to stay on for the next,
Oh, Mayor. I kicked them off. Hold
What?
on.
They didn't kick Christie off well enough. Oh, there she goes.
okay, let's just move forward then.
Hold on, I'll put Jess back on.
Okay, let's have a discussion regarding the downtown lighting display. Melissa, maybe you can start us on that.
Yes, Mayor, there are lights that I don't know if anybody's noticed outside on Main Street
They're
that go
green for
across.
St. Patrick's Day.
They are green for St. Patrick's Day. So these are lights that we plan to use to commemorate whatever events, holidays are coming up. We were talking about them for the gay pride discussion with regards to the discussion last year about the crosswalks, that perhaps we could make the lights in a rainbow color. So while we were discussing that, it came up about the war that is going on right now. And we wanted to bring to the board the question whether or not the board feels that we should have the lights changed to represent the Ukrainian colors of, I believe it's yellow and blue.
Blue. I think that's awesome.
Not necessarily a vote. This is just to discuss it with the board to make sure everybody.
Right, so Melissa and I discussed it. I thought it was a good idea, but I wanted everyone's opinion on that. So
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think it's a wonderful idea. And I think it would be, I mean, selfishly also, it's good PR for the village, but I think it's the right thing to do. And it really shows that that Dobbs Ferry is a progressive, welcoming, worldly place. And I think it's wonderful.
And the restaurants and bars could all celebrate St. Patrick's Day still.
any other thoughts?
No, I think it's a great idea. I think, I think obviously we support the Ukrainians in their efforts in the war, but we just have to be mindful that there'll be some other political issue that we might not catch or might not think of, or something else where somebody will complain that we put it up for the Ukrainians and not for something else. So I'm not saying that's a reason not to do it, obviously, but it's something we should be well aware of.
Yes, that's why I wanted to discuss with everyone, because that does have the potential to lead to problems, correct?
Yes, but it's worth dealing with that down the road to, do the right thing. So we should do it.
No, I don't disagree. I just want to be public about it. We were all human, and I doubt that we'll catch every single color issue that we could, or every flag that needs to be supported or whatnot.
Or agree on every issue. That's the other thing.
Right, and I just think going forward, and we were looking at every month, and maybe there could be a different color for every month. And I don't know how involved the Board of Trustees want to get involved in that.
We, not very low.
Right.
Well, I think if I can, I think that's a good opportunity for the Human Rights and Diversity Committee for certain issues. They're coming out with their calendar soon, and that, might help. And there'll be other holidays that are typical that people are gonna, that we already know about. But I think we can work on a calendar and see what's important. And we're not gonna get everybody, but I think the lights look so nice, and I think it's, it's something that could be meaningful in a very low maintenance kind of way.
I hadn't really thought about this until you mentioned this, Trustee Sullivan, but I think that making political statements is really a bad idea for the lights. I mean, at what point where do we draw a line here? I think holidays are fine. They're indisputable. I think, we crossed this line once already with signage, where, we have in our code that we allow certain types of signs. They're for, if it's a political sign, it's about a candidate or for sale sign. And now we sort of already crossed into that line of other kinds of signs that we're approving. I think it's a bad idea to politicize the lights hanging on Main Street.
I agree with you to the extent that there's a controversy. I don't believe there's much controversy about support of Ukraine. I could be wrong.
Statement.
But I do agree with you that we should not be making political statements as a village, much as I love making political statements, to the extent that they are polarizing.
Right, and it could be a slippery slope, right?
I understand, and I agree with you, and I think that the last suggestion, which is that we turn it over to another committee who is going to come up with a calendar of events that can then be tied to the lighting, I think is.
No, I was just suggesting that if there was something meaningful in a certain month, like Gay Pride, or, I mean, Christmas could be controversial, you know, to people too. So I'm just saying we don't have to use that calendar. I'm just saying there are things that we could use the lights for. It doesn't have to be something controversial, but I don't think that supporting Ukraine is controversial right now.
I agree with that.
It's patriotic.
I also agree that, you know, I'm in favor of unity. I wasn't against the sign or the idea. I was just against us, you know, approving signs that didn't meet the other sign criteria. Like, what happens when the next person comes with a disunity sign? And so I just don't want to, I don't want it to become more than just something pleasurable to look at when you drive through the village.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to take it on a political basis and case by case, but I do think we should move forward on this particular one. And I also, maybe Shari, the committee can come up with suggested months, and then we as the village administrator can review it and take care of if there's any hint of a controversy to us. But I also agree with Mike, we don't want to get involved in what color of the month the down is going to look.
Yeah, maybe we can vote to authorize Melissa to just.
But I do think that we should, no, but I do think that we should have a final say over whatever the listing is, because obviously if people aren't happy about it, we're going to be the ones they're blaming and defending it. So I want to at least know what we're agreeing to or not, or if there's something we think is important that wasn't raised.
Right.
So get it right, Jen.
Donna, you want to say something?
No.
Oh, you look like you did. Jess, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to point out, Christy mentioned in the chat that I believe the beautification committee is being sort of rehabilitated. So this is the lights, the idea around stringing them across the street, which I think is such an elegant suggestion, came from a subcommittee of the downtown committee that brought it to the village. And I think, you know, maybe there's a role for beautification if it's being rehabilitated. I see Trustee Asher has mentioned that she met with them yesterday. So, you know, maybe there's something in there, perhaps in collaboration with, certainly with Melissa and the board and human rights, and, you know, finding a couple of key moments to highlight.
I think there's been kind of an idea from DPW, and if Stephen's still on, or if Jen knows, that they've kind of already initiated it, which is why March 1st, they turned green. So what I can do is get that list circulated to the board, and then we can go from there to see if there are any other ideas.
But just so, and again, we don't have to do this as a formal vote, right? So is the
This
consensus,
is just informing the board.
right, so the consensus is to change the color of the lights for the foreseeable future to reflect the flag of the Ukraine. Is that like 6-1 right now? Yes, no?
Yes.
Who's the one?
Michael
I think Mike
Patino.
was supposed to Patino. I'm not speaking for him, but
Yeah, I mean, not for
Why
my opinion about the war, but just for how I think the light should be treated.
okay. Okay. Got that, Melissa?
Yes.
And now we're down to approving an audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer. Jeff, is there anything unusual that should call our attention to?
No, nothing unusual.
So is there a motion to approve the audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Asher, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Is there a motion to accept the May 31st, 2021 audited financial statements as presented? Anybody? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Cassell, all in favor? That passes unanimously. I think, oh yeah, trustee liaison reports. start with Larry. Do you have any?
I don't have anything specific for this meeting, no.
Donna?
I guess just the only one would be the planning board, because the question has come up to us. The planning board was looking at the erosion issue behind Draper Lane. A site plan was presented at the planning board meeting. So that is moving forward, that is being addressed. There was also a comment about landscaping, and the landscape architect is going to be consulted with, it's not going to affect the approval process. It's just to have them take a look at it, because the area is visible from the aqueduct. So if there's anything that needs to be done, but that is going to be addressed. And just so everybody knows, that the entire issue is on Draper Lane property. It's not on village property, and it's not on school property.
Okay. Shari, do you have anything?
I do. I have lots of things. So I had a really good meeting with the River Towns Chamber and the Dobbs Ferry business group. There was a good representation of businesses there, even a couple that hasn't even moved here yet and is planning to move here from Austin. There was lots of interesting things discussed regarding parking and events and vacancies in the stores, and everything was very positive. Though one of the suggestions that was made to help with parking is if the village could put on the website a map, a kind of like a nice graphic of where there is parking, that then all the businesses could share on their sites, specifically the restaurants. So when people make reservations, they would know where they can park, because people come to Dobbs Ferry from other places to go to the restaurants, and they may not know that we even have that parking lot down there. There was talk about using that parking lot for an event. We could talk more about that later. And then just addressing the fact that because there are so many vacancies, it makes the village less appealing as a walking destination. And so really working on trying to get some of those filled. Also met with the beautification committee yesterday, and there was lots of conversations about plantings, about trash being outside businesses and whose responsibility. Melissa was at the meeting as well, so we're going to be getting back to them with some answers about questions that they had. But there was a lot of concerns that there aren't enough trash receptacles in downtown and along Broadway, which is true if anyone has taken a walk with something in their hand, you know that, but just working on trying to get some of the businesses to clean up. And they did have a PowerPoint with photos that they've taken throughout the village. So we'll be sharing that as soon as we get that from them. Happy International Women's Day to everybody. The Human Rights and Diversity Committee put out a lovely statement. And I think that they were also hoping to do a little bit more about sharing different stories about women. They're working on some of their issues. We have a meeting on March 21st, and they are working on a calendar. So we'll know about all the things coming up. There's been another meeting about the Pride celebration. I was not able to be there, but I'm waiting to get feedback from them. But they're really reaching out to LGBTQ community members to try to have them be at the forefront of this event. And they're hoping to invite Congressman Jones to come.
Thank you, Shari. I do think the signage leading to that parking lot is a good idea. We should look at that very soon.
Christy's been talking about that for
I
a
know.
while, and she's offered to design it or keep it in line with the other designs. So
People always say,
Oh, we should do something digitally. If we do something digitally, it'd be very easy for people to share also, you know, so people can look up and see. So I think there's good opportunities to make it better.
Yes. Mike, do you have anything?
The ZBA canceled this meeting this past week. The CAB and the Tree Commission are sort of focused on the tree code revision. That's it.
Okay. Matt, do you have anything?
Just the traffic committee is in need of volunteers for new members of the traffic committee. So if anybody out there would like to volunteer, your volunteering would be very much appreciated. It's a rollicking good committee that has impacts throughout the village. So if anybody has an interest, please raise your hand. You can write to me. You can write directly to the nominating committee. You can go to the website and fill out the volunteer form. We would just love to identify people who are interested in being on the traffic committee.
Nicole, do you have anything?
I was not able to attend the rec commission's last meeting, but I believe Melissa did, so maybe she can update something more. But I do know that they are put out the information concerning their summer camps for the youth and the teens, and that they are hiring for counselors and lifeguards and other positions. People can check that out on the rec department's page. And also to piggyback on what Trustee Rosenberg said, the Youth Services Council is also still looking for members for anyone interested in joining that coalition.
They're in the process of, are they meeting soon? Are they looking for their hiring?
They have interviewed someone for the coordinator position, and now it's up to the village to do another interview. And I know Melissa's on top of it, but I'm not sure if they've scheduled it yet or not.
Okay.
She can answer if she wants to.
We've gotten it, it's scheduled. It's tomorrow.
Okay, I do have an announcement to make. This is to inform you that Con Ed will be replacing the gas main in the vicinity of the intersection of McClellan to the dead end of Seneca Street. They plan to start on Monday, March 14th, 2022, and anticipate the project will take approximately 1 month. So those in the area should be aware of all the disruption that may occur from that, and it probably, knowing Con Ed, will last more than 1 month. So just be aware of that. Any other announcements? No, some of the river towns are having their annual St. Patrick's Day parade. I wish I would have had the information with me. Actually, it may be.
Sleepy Hollow is on,
Yes,
on the
that's the one.
12th.
That's the one.
It's on the Sunday,
All right, so that's the one where
this Sunday.
we're always encouraged to participate in, and we've done it once or twice. And if you're interested in that, we can get more information, we can post that. So that's always been a very well-attended event. So other than that, if there's no further business, the meeting is hereby adjourned.
No, take a vote. You got to vote.
So
Motion.
close.
You were already in motion with that thing too. That was good
You need a
reflexes.
motion.
Is there a motion
Liz will
to,
kill me.
is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? Trustee Casal, second, trustee Asher, all in favor?